Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast, hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Thank you for tuning in to the Be a Better Being podcast. I'm Michelle Zellner, your host, and I am joined once again by my lovely co-host, Sasha. What's happening today, girlfriend?
Hello, everyone. What is happening today? Today is a day of celebrating you. That is what's happening today. Just basking in the glory of our relationship, and just thinking about how cool you are, Michelle, and all of the accomplishments that you've had. And so that's what's going on today.
Well, okay, I'm ready for it. And yeah, the reason we're celebrating is because Better Beings turns 25 years old, and August is the official month that it launched. So since we really haven't talked that much about my business, we thought that maybe this would be a good time to go back in the vault
Yeah.
and explore and fast forward to 25 years later.
I think it's important for so many reasons, right? We have so many different genres, so many different generations listening to this. This will give insight on who you are, how you started, why you are where you are now, and then, as always, just the motivation to get up and keep going, to get up and start something. So I'm very excited to showcase your past, your history, as far as being a better being.
Well, I'm excited to have you take the wheel and drive this conversation.
Perfect. So, thinking about let's call it like it is. 25 years, it's a long time.
It is.
Thinking about where you started, let's talk about that. That's humbling, right? Where did all of this come from? Where did it start from? Where did you get the name? Let's go like basics, very element basics. Who, where, what sent you? Who sent you, Michelle?
It honestly, and I know we align that there are no accidents, but it was all by accident. This was not my plan. It wasn't even on my radar. When I went to school for college, I went to University of Hawaii because I wanted to live there forever. And if I'm going to live in Hawaii forever, I have to figure out a career. So tourism is their big industry there. So I actually started out college in the tourism industry management program. And after one semester, I hated it. I thought, this is dreadful. This is not glamorous. This is nothing like they make it out to be. So I then had to shift gears and I thought, okay, well, what does everyone do who doesn't know what they want to do? Well, they go into psychology. So I did. Yes. It's a great fallback. Um, but I mean, I always have had interest in human behavior and whatnot. So it was sort of a natural match for me. And then also explored nutrition because, as we know, because I've talked a lot about it, that was a big issue for me. And as I started really getting interested in both of those things a lot more, and as I'm starting to wrap up my college career, I'm thinking, well, what do you do with a degree in psychology? Nothing. So I figured I was going to go on and get my master's in sports psychology. And my grand vision of how I was going to live the rest of my life was I was going to be a sports psychologist who really specialized in working with athletes with eating disorders. That was the path I was going to take. So I started exploring master's programs and settled on the University of Colorado Boulder for a number of reasons. One, two of my very best friends that I met at college in Hawaii lived in Colorado. Two, it seemed like it was a really great program that was going to offer what I wanted. Not a lot of master's programs in kinesiology offer a sports psychology avenue. So that was super exciting to me. And I earned a TA position. So I had my first year of my master's program paid for. All of those things were incredibly appealing when you're 23, 4 years old. So made the big move to Boulder. Was quickly demoralized because I found out that this was not an applied sports psychology program, but it was a research based one. So I did feel a little bamboozled because it wasn't sold that way. But you made the big move. You have 1 year of your master's program paid for. I just at the time didn't feel like I could just rip out of it and go start somewhere else. And when I really then learned what it takes to be a sports psychologist, you have to get your PhD in psychology and then find your emphasis. And I was like, that is not happening. I am so not interested in school at all anymore. Done. And at the time, I was working at a small gym just outside of Boulder in the little town of Gun Barrel. And it was just not a franchise, it was very small. I was living in Gun Barrel, so it was right in my neighborhood, just working at the front desk. It was easy to get to study and get other things done while I worked at the front desk. And I kind of immersed myself in gym life and got to know the members. And there was a personal trainer there. And you have to remember, this is back in the mid 90s. This is before personal training was a mainstream thing. In fact, at this time, it was really for rich people and for the stars in Hollywood. But there was a gal who was a trainer, and she was talking. She's like, I think you would love this. You should get certified. She was about to leave to have a baby and take some time off. And she said, you could take my clients while I'm gone. You'll love it. So I gave it some thought, and I thought, all right, why not? Let me give it a shot. So got certified, started taking over some of her clients, and I was hooked immediately, hooked. And I mean, it was that one conversation with her that really set the course of my life. And, when you're 24 or 5, you don't know that. You never know what one pivotal conversation, or even at that moment that it's a pivotal conversation. But it was, because here I am 25 years later, not doing personal training anymore, but still my business, Better Beings, it's evolved. So this gym I was at, it was a private gym, not a franchise. And the way we got to operate as trainers was to be independent contractors. So I had the opportunity to quote unquote start my own business. But even back then, I didn't look at it like that. It didn't feel like I owned a business because I didn't own anything. It was just me doing personal training. But the way it was set up, we paid rent to the gym, and then the clients and us, the trainers, we operated independently of the gym. So it was a really awesome setup because I had looked at other trainers at other gyms and the way they do it. And I tell you what, the trainer gets the very short end of the stick. And that was not something I was interested in. So as you start to forge down this road, I realized, well, it might be helpful if I named myself, right? Other than Michelle Zellner, personal trainer. Let's get creative. So as I was working with people, it just started really thinking about it. Obviously, I'm there to help them build better bodies from the inside and outside, help them reduce their risk for disease, help them be stronger, more fit, right? Whatever the goals are looking for from the physical aspect. But the way I train, I think this is really where my love of human connection and my interest in psychology and my interest in human behavior really did set me up for being successful long term, was the personal piece of personal training, and really making those connections with the humans that I was working with. It turned out to be maybe sometimes more therapy than physical training for a lot of people. So I started thinking about a business name, and I wish I had saved the ideas that I had going around, because I had a few. But Better Beings is really just what kept popping out. Better minds, because we're talking. Of course, we know movement is so critical for mental health as well. I don't know that back in the mid 90s we were thinking about that. Quite honestly, it was all about how you looked. But better bodies, better minds, what does that equate to? That equates to a better human being. And that's how the name Better Beings was born, and officially, registered it, LLC'd it in the state of Colorado. If I could go back, I would have immediately trademarked it. Didn't know. Got lucky a few years ago that it was still available to be trademarked, so I did that as soon as I could. But that was really how Better Beings started. And yeah, it's wild to think about going back as a 24, 5-year old and thinking this is what I'm going to do forever. This is the most amazing thing ever. And I'm making great money and I get to work with people and help them. It's very fulfilling. And I didn't really have a plan B. I didn't see myself doing anything else. This is what I'm going to do forever and ever and ever.
So that's personal training, right?
Yeah.
That's talking one on one. At what point in time in your adventure did you say, whoa, I need to be able to expand this? I need to be able to scale this because I love helping people one on one, but there's a need. There's a need for education. There's a need for resources. Did that happen 5 years into it? Did it happen 20 years into it? Did it just all overwhelm you, or was it baby steps?
Again, it was all by accident. My whole career has been very organic. I was not a business minded person. I really wasn't. I still didn't at this point really think of myself as a business. I'm just Michelle, personal trainer. In fact, when people would ask, "What do you do?" I'd say, "I'm a personal trainer." And the second question would be, "Well, what else do you do?" Because back then, there's no way you can support yourself by just being a personal trainer. You must have some other income, like that's your side hustle. No, I was a full-time trainer, and yeah, training clients whenever they wanted. The other misconception is, oh, you can create your own schedule. Well, of course I can. But if I want to support myself, I actually have to work when people want me to work. So that is early before work, that's at the lunch hour, and that's after work. And there's a whole bunch of dead time in between, unless you're lucky enough to have people who have off schedules, not the traditional 9 to 5 work schedule. And I was, as I grew my client base, I mean, there were many years where I was training clients 60 hours a week. That's a lot different than working 60 hours a week, because this is nonstop. I have to be present 60 hours every week with a different person, talking about different things, remembering what we did last time, and creating, the next steps to help them achieve their goals. I remember having a conversation with the gym owner. She also did personal training, and she was starting to ask if I wanted to take some of her clients, and I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course, but why don't you want them?" "Oh, I'm getting burned out." And I was like, "What do you mean? Burnout? How could that be? This is the most amazing job ever. I can't even understand how you wouldn't want to do this forever." Well, yeah, about 5 years into it, I'm like, "Oof, I can't do this forever." Well, I can, but I don't want to. Because when you are in the service business, you are tied. You have to be present to make a buck. So it was really difficult to manage that, because I know I still want to go on vacation. I still want to travel. I want to visit my friends. I want to take a day off and, go snowboarding on a Friday. But all you do is add up the dollars that you're not making when you're doing that. And it is something that took me a while to be comfortable, recognizing that I am in a good enough place that I can take time off. It's not all about the money. And learning to not panic when all of a sudden a client cancels on you or loses their job and now they are not training. All you do is add up the dollars that you're no longer making. And I certainly have evolved in my mindset because, business has evolved. But even now, when I choose to let go of income earning opportunities, it's very intentional. And I know that when I do that, it's to create space for other things to come in. So at what point did I scale? That wasn't a word back then. Okay. I know it's really hard for people who are of a generation younger than mine to realize that everything that's going on now, these things didn't exist when I was starting out. In fact, how did I get clients? I made a trifold flyer off of print shop and I walked the neighborhoods putting them on people's doors. That was marketing. Yes, I know you're laughing. I mean, obviously, the internet wasn't there, Facebook didn't exist, social media, none of this existed. It was all word of mouth. It was face to face conversation. It was literally pound the pavement. And at some point, when the economy took a gigantic tank, and it did, I realized, okay, I am a luxury item. I mean, I knew that all along, right? I'm a luxury item. People are picking me, but they're picking me because they have the funds to do it. And that's not very many people, quite honestly. So what happens? Well, now here I am. The economy is in the tank. Everybody that I know has lost their job or is just tightening the purse strings. And I went from training 40 to 50 to 60 hours a week to at my lowest point training 4 hours a week.
And this is 2008, 2009. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
I'm
and
trying to make sure that we're hitting some
yeah.
timestamps here.
Yep, there were ebbs and flows along the way, and there were times that I got very complacent. You get very comfortable. I had a really big, big, fancy client. Fancy. Oh my goodness, was he fancy. And he hired me 5 days a week for a 90-minute workout. And then he had friends who were fancy, and they had to keep up with Mr. Fancy. So then they also hired me 5 days a week for an hour, 90-minute workout. Just him and a couple of his people, I was making way more money than when I was, training 50 hours a week. So then I was like, okay, this is cool. I can kind of ease off the gas because I'm making a decent income and I don't have to work 50 hours a week. Well, guess what? When Mr. Fancy Pants decides that he's mad and he doesn't want you to be his trainer anymore, all of a sudden, that's like a third of my income gone. And that's big. So there were a lot of lessons along the way. You cannot put all your eggs in one basket. It's just not a good idea. You can't get complacent. And what that actually ended up doing for me, now it took a while, but it also made me evaluate my values. And am I going to stay tied to this person because they're a paycheck, even though they are toxic? uh they drain me. He was never toxic towards me, really. Usually when he was on and off, it was because of other things going on in his own life, and then I was just like an extra thing that he couldn't deal with. But when we were on, there was so much toxicity all around, and no matter how positive a person you are, when that is your present and you're in that consistently, it permeates into you, and it does start to affect you and change you. I remember, after the economy turned down and he wasn't having me train anymore, and literally down to 4 hours a week. I was married at the time, and my husband was a financial advisor, and also not a great industry when the stock market crashes. Incredibly blessed that I was raised by parents who instilled saving before you spend. And we got through that time because of my savings. We didn't ever rack up credit card debt. I didn't foreclose on any of my properties. I owned my own condo. I also had rental properties that were sitting empty because people lost their jobs and couldn't pay rent. And the vacation property I had at Lake of the Ozarks, well, nobody's vacationing because gas is $4 a gallon and nobody's going to spend that on boat gas. So nobody's going anywhere. So literally, it was just money going out, 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 and little to none coming in. So you get scrappy. At the time, corporate wellness was starting to take off, mostly in the area of on-site wellness fairs and health screenings. One of the members of the gym I was working at still at the time had mentioned that they have this health fair every year at their company, and you should really get looped in with this group that does it. You could come and do blood pressure or do the coaching or whatever. I was like, okay, that sounds cool. So I got looped in with them, and there were maybe 3 or 4 a year throughout the state of Colorado. And then I got looped in with another company, and there were maybe 3 or 4 a month. And then by the time I really was in dire need of work, there were 3 or 4 a day that I could pick from. So it was a blessing, but it was also a gut punch because now here I am earning $15 an hour to get my butt up at 4 in the morning to be at the wellness fair for a 5 a.m. setup, to work my 3 or 4 hours and be done. And all I could think of was, man, I used to, make more than that in 1 hour. And here I just spent 5 hours of my life to earn that same amount. But you do what you got to do. And it was really through all of those health fairs that, again, I got to actually learn more about the biometrics, the body, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, waist circumference. These are all the things that we measure at an on-site health screening. I often did the coaching, and I don't like to just say, eat better and exercise more. Everybody knows that. I want to know, why is your blood pressure high? What are you doing in your lifestyle? Do you know why we care about your waist circumference being higher than it should be? Do you know why that's a matter of interest, and why we should, really address that? And what I found out was most people don't know. We're not educated on those things. The doctor just says, "Oh, your blood pressure's high. Here, take some medication." Or, "Yeah, just watch your sodium intake." Well, that may or may not be necessary. There's so much more to the puzzle. So it really piqued my interest and my own curiosity to dig deep and learn more and educate myself, so that I could be offering useful information, not just the basic stuff that everybody hears that is, in my experience, fairly irrelevant to most people. The details matter. The general guidelines often don't relate or apply to a specific person. So that was how I really shifted into more of the education. And then I would have people who would ask, "Can you come in and talk to our company about, how to stay healthy on the road? I have a lot of salespeople, and it's really hard," or how to fit in exercise when they're in their really busy work days. And then, of course, the stress became more a topic that we talked about. What are some ways we can reduce and manage our stress? So now I'm doing a little more of these on-site wellness. I also was very fortunate to make some amazing connections here locally with healthcare providers, health insurance carriers, who sometimes offer money to their clients who have their plans to do wellness initiatives. And so I got looped in, and now Better Beings is on the preferred vendor list. But this all happened very, very slowly. I mean, very slowly. So, when I talk to people who are in the space now, they're like, "Well, I want to do what you're doing." I'm like, "Great, be patient, do the work." And it's not the same journey. So it is interesting to go back and kind of look at how organic everything happened, but it all happened the way it was supposed to, when it was supposed to. And here we are 25 years later.
All divine timing, right? Even if we don't want to acknowledge it or see it, it's all divine timing. One gym session leads to meeting another person, that person. It's also all about connections, right? And so every person that you meet, if you are in good health, if you are in good spirit, you radiate yourself, you radiate being a better being. That person wants to work with you. That person then refers you to the next person, who introduces you to the next person. And it all starts with you.
Well, it does. And that is something also that I think really evolved as I grew. I will tell you, my first 5, 10 years maybe of being a trainer, there were a lot of days I felt like a fraud. Not because I didn't know how to make people work out well, because exercise was always part of my life. It was never something that ended. But the nutrition side, as we all know, because I talk all about it all the time, it was a big deal. And it was something I wasn't talking about. I was not comfortable. I didn't want people to know that I struggled with nutrition, because then, well, why would they take advice from me? Why would they listen to me when I can't even get my own act together? And I did often go home, maybe after a client, and we talked about something, and I really felt like, ugh, I don't feel good. I don't feel authentic. Or when I had a weekend and, I binged on garbage all weekend, then I show up Monday as the healthy girl. It really was a disconnect. But it was also something I was trying to figure out myself. And so as I became more comfortable with myself and I started figuring out my own challenges, then I started talking and sharing that story with a personal training client or up in front of a crowd of 50 people and saying it out loud. And people be like, wow, I never would imagine that, because you look at me and you don't think that I have any challenges, right? At least this is what people tell me. No, we all do. And I will say it was really through the DPS program, my Denver Public School employees, where I started to get to be in front of the same group of people for 10 weeks in a row. You develop relationships and you make those connections, and you start to be very comfortable showing all your ugly stuff. And I know that has propelled me forward leaps and bounds. I would say my growth in my own self as well as in my business, there was so much more growth maybe in the last 7 years than in the first 17 years.
So it sounds like you came to a point in your life where you said, all right, if I'm going to talk the talk, I'm going to walk the walk.
Yeah, and I was doing that a little bit for sure, because it's a journey. So I think I did also recognize that I am a human. Just because I know how to, put a workout together for you and I can be your cheerleader doesn't mean I don't have my own challenges. And I think even though people look at me as the expert on things, I'm just the same as you. I really am. And when you share that and you are relatable, that is what makes people trust you, right? The
Mhm.
authenticity. But
Mhm.
you have to be comfortable enough to be authentic. And I struggled with, I mean, as if you've listened, I went on the I Can Do Whatever I Want tour and gained 50 pounds in a year and a half. And then, like, had to figure out, okay, what direction do you want your actual life to go? And if you want it to go one way, you're going to need to start doing different things. And I had to get myself comfortable enough to be able to talk and to learn enough about me, because there was so much poor information, as we all know back then, about nutrition. And the message was diet, diet, diet. Just eat less, and exercise more. That was the message that was drilled into our brains. That was the only way we knew. Nobody knew any different. And so when you do that and you're like, it doesn't really seem to be working, then you just feel worthless. You feel like a loser and a complete failure. And when you feel like a failure in your personal life, it's really hard to feel successful when you're trying to help other people. So it really is a journey that's gone in parallel ways, my business as well as my own self and my own confidence and my comfort and my ability to open up and share. And, even becoming very public by writing a book. It's one thing to stand in front of a select audience and share your story. It's another thing to put it out to the world for any and everyone to read or listen to, just like the podcast, right? So even that, it's a process. And I do find, and it's because I think we live in a very different world where we want this instant result. People struggle with the process, right? They just want the result. They beat themselves up because, oh, I should write a book, I should do a podcast, I should do my online courses. And it is something that I think everybody, from a personal growth standpoint and a business growth standpoint, we could should ourselves all day long, but if you're not really ready, then we can't force it. I remember it was maybe a month after my book came out. I was in a group of women at probably some networking event, which I'm not a fan of. And my friend was introducing me to these people, and she's like, oh, and she just wrote a book. She just released it. It's really great. And this person who doesn't know me at all, well, you really need to do online courses because that's where everything's at. And I just wanted to tell her to F off. I really did. In my head, I said that. I didn't say it out loud to her. And in fact, what I did say was, I'll probably do that someday. But right now, I'm just going to celebrate the fact that I wrote a book, because that's kind of a big deal. 10 years ago, I would not have stood up for myself in that way. I would have just said, oh, you're right. Yeah, I know. No, you know what? I've learned I do things when I'm ready to do them. And when I'm ready, they'll be great. If I try to force it before I'm ready, it's going to be horrible. So why would I do that to myself? But it took a while to get there. It really did, because you start listening to what people tell you. You should do a podcast. You know how many years people have been telling me, Michelle, you should do a podcast. well, guess what? Here we are doing a podcast, and it's happening because it's supposed to be happening, because it wouldn't be what it is without you. I wouldn't be doing this without you. I didn't know you until about a year and a half ago. So here we are. When the universe drops the right person in my life, all of a sudden, this thing that I was never going to do, I promise you, I had said over and over, I'm never going to do a podcast. There's no need for me to do a podcast. Well, then all of a sudden, I'm like, that could be fun. Could be fun to do a podcast with a really fabulous co host. So, it's one of those lessons that you are open to ideas. I was closed on a lot of the ideas, but you're ready to be open to it when it's ready for you to be open to it. Okay, time out because I can't hear you. Okay. Thank you. I was like, I don't know what happened to her, Mike.
There it is. Okay.
Okay, so start over.
So want to just go back to that last sentiment that you just shared, makes me want to, or does make me, wail. I can't even talk because it's just so humbling, but it also makes me want to wag my tail because, wow, knowing that all these people have pushed all these things on you, saying that you should do all these things, which you have and you've done beautifully. The book, the University, all of the speaking engagements that you've had that we need to celebrate as well, from local 50 people to getting flown all the way out to Alaska. I mean, those are really big deals. And so to have someone who is so secure of who they are and also open and willing to continue to deep dive into themselves, to continue to pull back those layers, to become a better person, even when it's difficult to do that and to deep dive, to ask me to do a podcast with you. Wow. So beautiful. So thank you so much, Michelle, for allowing me to be a part of your journey as well. One little shout out, and I do want to talk about your keynote speaking and how that all came to fruition and manifesting all of that. But another big role, another key player in all this, I feel like, is Penny. Penny is a personality. You know what I mean? And so I feel like Penny needs a little shout out. How old is Penny? Where did Penny come from? In the 25 years of being a better being, Penny's been here, and Penny shows up, man, So who is Penny? Tell us about Penny.
Well, Penny, when I decided to do the online courses, which I did when I was ready, I thought, okay, one person, Mandy Connell's producer, Dave Lauer, he read my book and he said, it's kind of like a user's manual for how to be a human. Like, if you want to learn how to be a healthy human, this is the book. And as I was thinking about, my online courses, how do I structure this? Because I have so many topics, and everything you learn about an online course, you have to filter, you have to specialize, you have to have a niche. I'm not a niche person. I'm just not, because your human is not niche. Your human needs everything, and it needs a whole bunch of different things, and everybody needs it a little differently. So I thought, okay, well, let me take that idea that Dave said, and what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to create a university, U Revolution University. This is where you go for your online content to learn how to be a healthy human. Well, every university has a mascot. So I needed a mascot. And I thought, it could maybe be like some resemblance of me, my avatar, right? And my grandma nicknamed me Penny. And so it felt natural. Also, when I publish my book, I self-publish. And in the world of self-publishing, it's still better, even though it's kind of silly, to have a publishing company, which basically just means you register a name. I don't have a publishing company, but it's Pink Penny Publishing. And again, it was very specific why it's named that way. Hot pink was my favorite color. Penny, from my grandma nicknaming me that. So it just felt natural to have a mascot. She looks like me. She is Penny. And then when I wrote the PFF is Your BFF handbook, I wanted it to be kind of fun and kind of you know, interesting. And I thought, oh, let me have Penny have a feature role in the PFF is Your BFF handbook. So it was super fun working with my graphic designer, Victoria Wolf, taking the ideas and the images and then, moving her body in certain positions, putting her in a bowl of salad for the for the PFF handbook, and just trying to make it fun and light because sometimes it is heavy and it's hard. And if you can have a goofy little doll, and I found the crocheted version. There was someone on Pinterest. I wanted like a life version of Penny, so I sent her a picture, and this woman in Turkey made Penny. And that's, if you're on YouTube, you can see she stands on my dresser right in front of all my Be a Better Being stuff. And yeah, she's kind of fun. I mean, branding and all of this stuff, again, this is all new for me, other than coming up with a really great business name. Whenever people hear, they're like, oh, that's a great name. Thank you. I'm very proud of that. I really am. Um, but all this other branding, like that really didn't even play a role in my life, probably until I wrote the book. Because what's kind of funny is you're nobody unless you've written a book. And so the U Revolution is this 10-week program that I created because one of my amazing contacts at Cigna came to me and asked if I would be willing to create a robust lifestyle enhancement program for one of their clients. And the client was Denver Public School Employee Wellness. I thought that would be amazing. I would love that. And she said, oh, and by the way, we want to start in 3 weeks. Okay. So I created as we were going, but I started to think about what are all the things it takes to be a healthy human? What are the questions I've always had? What are the struggles I've had? I know I'm not the only one. And based on that, I created the curriculum that it was started out as a 12-week, it condensed to a 10-week. And after the 2017 group, this started in 2014, I just finished up a session in this last spring in 2022. So Denver Public School employees, I mean, the wellness team there, I owe so much gratitude. And before we wrap up, I am going to name a whole bunch of people.
That was one of my next question is we need to pay tribute to all these individuals because it's 25 years of this is not your own journey. This is not something that Michelle said, hey everyone, look, I'm a strong independent woman. My favorite color is pink and here's my book. No. Right?
No.
Like, we know mom, dad played a huge part in this. We know our sister played a huge part in this. But like, yeah, let's hear it. I want to hear a list of all the people that we need to pay tribute and we need to say thank you. We might miss a couple, so don't take offense to that. We're not
it's always
meaning to leave you out.
Risk, right?
Yeah, it is a risk. It's a huge risk, especially since this is nothing that we do on the show is planned. So when I'm here just throwing things at Michelle, I want to know who in these last couple moments tell us 25 years, girl, that is so long. I'm going to age myself. I was 9 years old, 10 years old. I was literally having Spice Girl birthday parties at the pool with all my girlfriends in, whatever, 6th or 7th grade. And you're over there rewriting the world. Who and what do we need to pay homage and thank you to,
Yeah, well, this won't be in chronological order, but just kind of talking about even the book that I wrote. I always thought I would write a book. This was not the one. It never occurred to me to write another wellness book. Who needs that? There's a million of them. But Nick Simonetti, he was a Denver Public School employee at the time, and he'd taken my U Revolution class. During one of the classes at the end of the 2017 group, he said, Michelle, you really should write this in a book. And I thought, oh, duh, that's a great idea. And so I put it on the vision board for 2018, and I knew when I could write this book. And it wasn't really hard. People say, well, is it hard to write a book? No, because it's the content I created over the course of a few years, and it's my own story. So it's not that hard. I wasn't making anything up. I just had to put it together. So I have to give a huge shout out to Nick Simonetti, because I can promise you, if he had not said that, I never would have written this book. And, one of the things that I'm really grateful for just in my own personal growth journey is recognizing what I need to be successful. And it's something that I teach and preach. You need the environment that's conducive. You need to be well nourished, well hydrated, well rested. You need someone who's going to support you, someone who's going to hold you accountable. You need somebody who's going to cheer for you. You need someone that can bounce ideas and help problem solve. I mean, that's just kind of a metaphor for life. Well, I had a lot of pieces of the puzzle of the book together, but I also recognized that if I really want this to be a polished, finished product, I probably needed an environment to do it. I didn't need help writing the book. I need the environment for me to write the book. And I can't do that in my little space. I'm not somebody who's going to block out 2 hours and write and then block out 2 more hours and write. That's not how I work. And I decided to invest in myself and invest in getting this book completed. And I went just on a random Google search, writing retreats. And I came across this woman, Tammy Koya, who is in Bellingham, Washington, the memoir coach. And mine is somewhat of a memoir. So I thought, okay, we had one Zoom chat and instantly it was a no-brainer. Like, this is my person. I flew to Bellingham, Washington, and I mean, there's posts, and she's written about this in her posts that I was like the weirdest client she's ever had, the most unique, because literally what Tammy did for me, she gave me the environment. She fed me. And if you know about me, that's a non negotiable. She fed me. She made sure I took breaks. She was there whenever I had a question. She had the time in the morning to outline the plan. What are we doing today? What's the strategy today? We went for that morning walk, and I gave her a little more history of me and my story and the things that I want to talk about. We took breaks. We took the ferry over to this lovely little spot and had an amazing meal. And we went into town and got to see the fun stuff. She made sure I went to bed. If we, after dinner, do you want to work some more? Yes or no? I mean, it was always that ability to be accountable, keep somebody on task. Hey, help me be on task, help sort things and organize things. I'm struggling with how to phrase this or how much in detail to go on this one. Can you help me? It was the most amazing. I believe I wasn't there for much more than 48 hours. And this is not me, but like in normal world, I got on that plane and I could not wait to write. I will tell you that by the time I left her house, by the time I landed in Denver, 85% of the book was done. Yeah. And that's what happens when you set yourself up for success. You are successful. And you have to invest time, money, and energy if you want to be successful. And I mean, I'm going to talk about Tammy later. She's probably going to come on this podcast because the synergies and the connections. I just saw her a few days ago. She's here in Denver. And it's just, again, like we talked about, this was 4 years ago that I met her. And we're going to remain connected forever. I have no doubt in my mind. She played a huge, pivotal role. And I mean, gosh, just going back to, all the clients, the people that I interacted with over the course of time, I'm still close and connected to many of them. Hannah Rarick, she's the feature in a couple of the July episodes, right? And I mean, gosh, I give shout outs to Dennis Murray and Don and Mike Gaetano and the Golds and Karen McDonald and Leslie Oldham. I mean, all these people that played such a big role in my life because those years between grad school and like adulthood, they were hard, personal, hard years for me. There was a lot of really yucky personal stuff. And these people were my family. So here I go, getting emotional.
I was gonna say, I've never seen you glow like this. Listening to you and watching you right now, list all the people who have made you a better being and brought you both success and have helped you pull you out of your dark times, your unsuccessful times. I've never in my entire relationship with you ever seen you glow like this right now. And I know that those are humble tears and those are tears full of gratitude. Man, all these people have impacted you deeply.
They have. And, some I'm still very connected to, some they're just always going to be in here. I went and visited a couple years ago, Harriet H. I mean, such an amazing woman. And the thing is I helped them through hard times too. I think about Nick and Beth Lombardo. I mean, they were very integral people in another really hard time in my life. And without that family surrounding me, and it's different from my actual family, right? Because sometimes you don't want to share the hard stuff with your real family because it's too hard and you don't want them to hurt. But you can't fake it. When you enter someone's home, they know when you're faking it. When you've been entering someone's home for years and years and years, they know when things are good and when they're not. And I'm not, as you can tell, somebody that can fake my emotions. So, I mean, those connections through personal training, and then just from the business standpoint, all the people who gave me a chance, all the people who gave me opportunity, all the people who continue to support me. Mandy Connell, I mean, she's got a huge, she was just named Woman of the Year by Talker Magazine, which is like the magazine that celebrates big wigs, big deals in talk radio. She's a big deal. She is a fan. She has me on her show. She's had me on her show many times over the years. She wrote the blurb on the back of my book. For someone like that to give me a platform that she has and to continue to support me. I mean, all the people in the business world, my people at Cigna, my people at United Healthcare, the people at the EAPs that I've partnered with, Minds and Associates people. I mean, it's just too many to name, and I do want everyone to know that if you've ever connected with me, if you've ever offered me a chance to speak to your group, all of those are incredibly important, and I am deeply grateful. And like you were talking about the latest one in Alaska, talk about everything just happening because of divine timing. I mean, the Mike who heard me on that call wasn't going to be on the call. I wasn't actually supposed to teach that training. I was a last minute fill in. He heard, he talks to Kristen. Kristen, we got our girl. Kristen didn't know anything about me. We had a Zoom chat. She's like, "Hey, you seem awesome. Do you want to come do a keynote speech for the American Heart?" I'm like, "What?" But everything I've done until that time led me up to be ready for that time, right? And I mean, even the theme, reclaim your rhythm, that's the theme of Go Red this past year. Totally made for my kind of topic and my delivery style. And then since then, the connections I made there, those are sprouting into other amazing things. I mean, that's the thing is, all these years of doing the hard work, the connections I've made at the health fairs and, the vendor fairs that I went to that you feel like, you're not getting any business, nothing's happening. You never know when that seed is going to sprout. You just don't. So it's about being open and willing and ready for when that time does.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I love all of this for you. Are you ready for the last question?
Ah, I think so.
You're going to hate it. No,
Oh
you're going to
gosh.
love it. But you're going to be like, what? Why would you ask this? So you said someone, at a networking event, you were introduced, I got a book, and she's like, okay, cool. You should do this. And you're like, what? No, like, come on now. Let's just stay in the moment. So let's not stay in the moment. What's next? 25 years. Let's manifest it right here. You say it out loud. This is for everyone to take notes. This is what Michelle sees in her future. She's envisioning, and it doesn't have to be anything, right? It can just be like nothing. I just envision happiness, but let's do it. Let's go
Well,
big.
you already know what it is because I had a dream about it. And if anybody's read my book, my dreams, they mean things. It's you and I hosting the Be a Better Being conference. I don't know when that'll happen. I'm not going to push it. For years and years, I wanted to do a wellness retreat. I did that in 2017. I took an amazing group of people to this amazing house in Kauai, and we had the most incredible week. And I've always like, okay, I want to do retreats. I want to do the Be a Better Being in Bali retreat, and I want to do this. And I want to do workshops. It's a lot of work, and a lot of things have to come together. And it will happen when it's ready to happen. But I'm pretty sure that's going to be in our future.
Yeah, I just got goosebumps. I am so for retreat. I'm so for speaking life and love and kindness and energy into people. I'm here with you. I support you 100% of the way. Just ultra thankful for you. I'm thankful for all of the roads that you have trudged and walked on your own. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity to trudge and walk the rest of the roads with you side by side, friend.
Well, I tell you, this last few years, it's been a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun to be at this point in life and this point in my career. It's still a joke in my family. You know, when I told my parents what I was going to do, be a personal trainer, my mom said, well, honey, if after a few months you have to get a real job, that's okay. And I give her a ton of grace because, again, this was not a thing. And to think that you're going to make somebody pay you to make them work out, like, what are you talking about? But I can't, this is not just me. This is every person I've ever come across. Yes, I've done the hard work. Okay. I'm not going to take that away from myself. I've done the hard work. I've continued to learn and grow and be open. But I think patience is also important. And I don't look too far in the future. I never have. I do vision boards for sure, but I don't look too far in the future. And I don't get down on myself if I didn't complete something that I said I was going to complete. I reflect on it and ask, well, why not? I have a friend who was hoping to do a big, 2-day conference, and she just made the hard decision to cancel it because when things are not aligning, they're not aligning. And yet somebody else might say, well, we have to do it anyway because we committed and we have people who signed up and we have I think it takes a lot to just step back and say, you know what? It's not the right time. And to be okay with that decision and to let it go and move on, because when you have to force something, it's probably not right, and eventually it's going to leave some bad marks and negativity, and that is going to filter into everything else. So I know there are great things to come. I really have no idea what they are. I promise you, a year ago, if you had told me I would do the keynote speeches for the American Heart Go Red luncheons in Alaska, I'd be like, what are you talking about? I don't know anybody in Alaska. Why would I do that? You don't know what's ahead. But whatever it is, I'm ready for it and I'm excited.
That's incredible. The look of gratitude and humility on your face. Oh, it's probably the most beautiful I've ever seen you in my life. I'm going to end it with this, you guys. Are you ready for the most terrible version of happy birthday to you? Happy birthday. Just kidding. I'm not doing the whole thing because I really am a terrible singer. But I want to say happy birthday. Heck yes. Bravo. Kudos. Clapping. All of that to your hard work, your success. I'm so incredibly proud of you, Michelle.
Well, thank you, my friend. And yeah, I mean, if Better Beings gets another 25 years under the belt, we'll be having a really big, it's, I turned 50 this year. So it'll be the 75-year-old. You'll be still a child. I'll have Penny right next to me though. And we'll be having a big bash when Better Beings turns 50.
All right, guys, that's it. That's our beautiful, incredible, resilient Michelle Zellner. Aww. She is my mentor, my sister, my friend. So thankful for her. And as always, everyone, go out there, challenge yourself to become a better being.
Thank you, Sasha. Love you. Mwah. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.